Welcome back to Toni Told Me, the cozy corner of the internet for the real talk and real tea with me, Toni Tone, aka the internet's big sis. I want to apologize in advance. I've got a cold or a chest infection. I don't know what I've got, guys. So if my voice sounds a little different, that is why. But as always, I want to remind you to please, if you love the podcast, do subscribe on YouTube and please ensure you're following us on social media. Toni Told Me across TikTok and Instagram. I just want to apologize in advance, guys, because I'm a bit sick at the moment. So if my voice sounds a bit muffly, that would be why. So apologies in advance. But as always, I want to remind you that if you do love the podcast, please subscribe on YouTube and do follow us via @ToniToldMePod on Instagram and TikTok. This episode is going to be a banger. It's all about how to know a guy is the one. Like, how do you know that? I was going to say that you should put a ring on it, but no, don't put a ring on it. You should put a ring on you. But how do you know you say yes to a guy and that that's the guy you should marry? So I want to explore that in a bit of detail. But beforehand, I want to talk about what I've been up to. I literally just got back from a cruise. It was amazing. Minus one thing. You guys may have seen some viral videos of mine on TikTok about an experience I had with a horrible couple on the cruise. And that was the only bad thing about the cruise. I won't go into it in any detail because I don't want to give them any more shine than I've already given them. You can watch that on TikTok. But outside of that, the cruise was amazing. Absolutely wonderful. And it was nice to take a break from like wedding planning and wedding stuff. And I said to my mum, look, please, we're not talking about wedding stuff on this cruise. Every time she brought up the wedding, I was like, let's just have a nice vacation. Right. So yeah, it was lovely. It was a lovely cruise. We went around Mallorca, Ibiza, Casablanca in Morocco, Cadiz. Where else did we go? Malaga. It was like a southern Spain and Morocco route. That was really nice. It was my third time cruising with Virgin Voyages. Always love it. So I recommend it. If you've never been on a cruise, Virgin Voyages, oh my God, child free as well. It's adult only.
Oh, I love that.
I know, right?
Love that.
Like no kiddies. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love kids.
Yeah, we love kids. Like, no hate to the kids.
Yeah, but you don't want to be on holiday and then there's, George, come here, George, sit down. You're out. It's 10 p.m. You're trying to chill and enjoy the nightlife. And there's like little kids running around. You're trying to lay on the deck, get a tan. And there's like little, I don't know.
You're getting splashed with water.
Yeah, no one wants to have to deal with that. And a lot of people who complain about other cruise lines mention like the sheer number of kids on board. But Virgin Voyages is adult only.
Love that.
So it's great for solo travelers. It's great for vacations. It's great for group trips. Like, highly, highly recommend. This is the part of the podcast where we go through some dilemmas. And if you're new here, we have producer Annisha in the studio all the time. And she is the mastermind behind picking the dilemmas every week. So Annisha, please let us know what the dilemmas are saying today.
This one says, hey, Toni and producer Annisha. I've been seeing this guy for almost 7 months now. For context, I'm a 24-year-old woman and he's a 30-year-old man. I've met his friends, his parents, and even attended family events with him. Despite all of that, we still haven't had any conversations about making things official. It feels a bit awkward at those family gatherings because people ask questions about our relationship status and he doesn't really give a clear answer. I've hinted that you can't just assume you're in a relationship without actually asking, but he doesn't seem too bothered by it. Am I overthinking this?
I don't think she's overthinking.
No, me neither.
I think that sometimes men will even be strategic with it. They will do things that you would define as relationship things or girlfriend things with you in the hope that you would assume internally, and then later down that line when you try and address it, they'll be like, oh, but we're not even in a relationship.
Yeah.
But they do it as a means of sometimes like manipulating you and trying to pacify you. Like, oh, if I bring her around my people, my friends, my family, and she gets comfy, then I don't actually have to address the discussion because maybe she'll just assume. And in which case, great, like I'm off the hook. So I don't think that she's being like extra by taking issue with that. Like I would take issue with that. And I do agree that a formal discussion has to be had. Like, is this a relationship or is this not a relationship? I think sometimes we can assume that if we're meeting people in the family, it means something significant as well. Let me tell you something about men, right? And I say this as someone who has cousins, male cousins, who has a brother, who has a father, uncles, whatever. There are some men, not all men, but there are many men who have no desire to be in a relationship with you, but they have no issue bringing you around their family, bringing you around their friends. Sometimes the family or friends may even know that he's not serious.
Yeah.
He might even say, and I see you, I feel like you've been there. You've probably been there with cousins or something where it's like, oh, I'm talking to this girl. Yeah, she's coming around. Like, she's cool. But, no, man, I don't really know. But anyway, she's coming around. And you're going to be polite to the person, but you know that they're not serious.
No, do you know what it is? I've been the girl that I'm with someone and they bring me around all of their friends. I mean, like, deep friends. All the boys know about me. Everyone knows about me. Am I his girlfriend? No. But everyone refers to me, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so's girl.
I love that. Oh, his girl. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
And he had like 4 other girls. So
you just on rotation.
What number am I?
Yeah, no, that's wild. Like, if someone close to me had like hella girls, then I'd be like, don't even bring this person around here. Like, I'm not trying to interact with this person, or like, I will open my mouth. But if it's a thing whereby I know they're not being, like, I would say something in that situation.
Yeah.
But if it's something where like, I know they're not like super sure, super serious, then I'll keep my nose out of it. But with the awareness that like men bringing around their family doesn't always mean something significant. But like, your case is wild. Like in that scenario, someone should have been like, I don't know, it's hard. Because I guess their loyalties, they feel like they have more loyalty to this guy. But I feel like they shouldn't have entertained it, or someone should have hinted that, girl, this guy is not serious.
Yeah.
Like I've even spoken to women who have dated men that are within my family. Not my brother, by the way, not my happily married brother, before people assume, but like cousins and extended family members. I've had discussions with women and been like, babe, he's not a serious candidate. What are you doing here? Like, don't
I think
even
that's so
take that
needed
seriously.
though, because I don't understand it. Like, if guys are bringing, I think friends is less serious.
Yeah.
Family, to me, I think, in my opinion,
That
if
should be
I'm bringing
significant.
around my family, that means something.
To women,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's why I find it hard to understand. So I'm not surprised this girl's overthinking, because I would be too.
Yeah. And I think she has a right to be like, look, I'm meeting your family members. I feel like you're embedding me into your life, into your social network, but I'm very confused because we haven't even had a discussion about where we see the relationship going and what kind of relationship we have. And rather than make it sound like she's begging, like, oh, what are we? She should just be like, I don't feel comfortable meeting your family and being around your friends in this capacity without like us having a conversation about it.
Yeah,
and
being
I think,
like concrete.
Yeah,
like
I think you need some clarity. I need some clarity because it's all great me meeting your people, but I don't really want to be doing that for someone unless we're planning on a long-term thing.
Yeah.
So let's have a chat. Like, what are we going to do? And she needs to voice it like, what are we going to do? Rather than, oh, what are we? What do you think? What are you going to do? Because it's very much your decision too, right? I think sometimes we can end up in a situation with men where we're like, oh, so what's your plans? Like, where is this going? Like he's the only person who has say. You also have say. You need to be like, look, I need some clarity for me. I don't know what I want to do with this situation right here. So I need to talk to you about it. So yeah, definitely, sis, have the discussion. You are not going mad. Dilemma number 2, please, Producer Annisha.
So this one says, hello, Tony. Me and my fiancé just hit our 10-year anniversary. Big deal, right?
Sorry, I know you're going to explain this, but right now I'm thinking
10
years of being together or 10 years of being engaged. Yeah, because I need this clarity right now.
Well, I don't think we get that clarity, Tony. So let's just hope it's not 10 years of... Well, actually, no. Do you know what? Can't. Whatever floats their goat. Big deal, right? She says. I made a sweet little Facebook post. We went out for dinner, came home and went to bed. All chill. Later that night, I'm just lying there and I get this random urge to check his phone. Oh, I hate that urge.
Wait, have you had that urge?
Yeah.
That is too funny. Did you find something when you checked?
Yeah.
I feel like when you have the urge to check a man's phone,
That's your gut.
Yes, you are going to find something.
Yeah.
Because something in your subconscious triggered that urge. Like, I never have the urge to check my partner's phone when I'm in a happy relationship, right?
Yeah.
But when I'm in a relationship that's a little unhappy or I have some hurdles or it's a little toxic, I might feel that urge. So the fact a woman feels that urge, she gonna find something.
She's put in brackets, we've always had open phones, nothing secret, it's never been a thing. Whilst I'm there, I noticed this woman pop up on his friends list. She's gorgeous, the kind of woman I know he'd be into. I've seen her face before on the people you may know list, and the only mutual friend is him. But then I look deeper and she's not in his regular messages. She's in the archived ones.
Oh, what did they say?
So now I'm like, what's this about? I read through them. I don't think anything physical has happened, but honestly, it's only because she didn't seem that into it.
Oh,
No.
God. Do you know what?
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Do you know what? That would make me even more mad. I know
Yeah.
it sounds weird, but if I'm dating a guy, right, and I find messages of him talking to other women, and the women aren't even interested, they're not even feeling him, they're even annoyed by his interaction, I'll be like, not only are you an emotional cheat, you're a cheater, but you have no soul. Other women don't even want you. Why should I want you?
No riz,
you're trying
no
to cheat
sauce.
and you're failing on top of that? Like, it's disrespectful that you're cheating, but you're cheating and you're failing too, which is like double the disrespect. Like, they
That's
don't even
extra
rate
muggy.
you.
That's extra muggy. So she also says he definitely tried it though. The messages had a flirty vibe, especially around the time I was away visiting family and he was alone for a few days. So now I'm sitting here wondering, what even is this? After 10 years together, I feel like I don't know who he is anymore. Do I just walk away from this? Because if she had said yes, I think he would have gone for it, and that's what hurts the most.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Now, I want to give my sincerest, most honest opinion about this. If you were my sister and you came to me with this issue, you'd been with this guy for 10 years and you're engaged, I can't lie, I would say lock it off. And the reason why I would say you need to lock it off is because that is cheating.
Yeah.
He may not have done something physical, but emotional cheating is still a form of cheating, right?
He had intent.
Exactly. And how can you go into a marriage that is supposed to last a lifetime when the person you are with cannot even adhere to having basic respect for you? And that is the barest of minimum thing you can do in a relationship with someone, is respect them enough to be loyal to them and respect them enough to not engage in certain kinds of conversations, right? And the fact that he did that, that is not someone you can trust. And as you said yourself, you feel like his lack of success is the only reason why it didn't progress. But had she entertained it, Lord knows what could have happened, right? The question you need to ask yourself is that, are you open and willing to spend the rest of your life and to enter a marriage with a man that you cannot trust, who has proven to you that you cannot trust him, who has proven to you that he has the capacity to build emotional connections outside of your relationship and to entertain other women? If that's the kind of relationship you want, by all means, take him back, because that's what you're going to get. But if that's not what you want, then I don't think it's a wise choice to progress in that type of relationship. Now, again, I want to stress that this is your life. Don't be saying Tony told you to leave your man, right? Because I'm not saying what you should do. I'm saying what I would advise my sisters to do, or what I would do if I was in your position. And I want you to make the decision for yourself, but with those tidbits in mind. What kind of marriage do you want? And do you think you can get that out of a man who is capable of doing this? That's all I will say. I really hope this advice was helpful to everyone listening. If you have a personal dilemma that you want to submit, please send it to the email inbox. Producer Annisha is on job. She's always looking through that inbox. So tony@tonytoldmepod.com. You can also reach us on Instagram. Like I said, you can send us a DM at tonytoldmepod, and we might pull your dilemma from there. Next up, we have the Sisterhood Spotlight. And this is part of the show, if you're new here, because some of you might be new, where we delve into the main topic a little deeper, which is trying to figure out whether a guy is the one. So how do you know a man is the one? I've been there. I've been in a state of confusion more than one occasion. Like, is this the person? Am I with the right person? Is he the one? And now that I'm like gearing up to obviously get married, I get that question from other people more than ever. Toni, how did you know Taiwo was the one? How did you know he's the one? Like, how do you know? Tell us. So I want to talk about my own personal experience with my partner now and my experience in the past when it came to like deciphering whether the person I was with was the one. So first of all, let's kind of look at what the one really means. It means different things to different people. For some people, it's this like idealized notion of like this soulmate that you meet and everything just kind of falls into place. For some people, it's meeting someone that you feel you can have a long-term relationship with someone who wants to have a relationship with you and who triggers that desire of commitment in you. For some people, that's the one. For other people, it's more than that, right? It feels spiritual. So how did I know Taiwo was the one? Was this a spiritual feeling? Was this a logical feeling? What was it? I've kind of touched on this in the past, but it was a combination of both for me, to be completely honest. I wanted to be able to sit here and say that it was all logic and going through a checkbox, but that isn't entirely true. I remember like my mum saying that first time she saw my dad, she was like, oh, I can marry a man like him. Like something about him just gives marriage. She ended up marrying him. I remember my brother meeting my sister-in-law. He was like, yep, I had one date with her and I was like, this is going to be my wife. They got married. And I've had that same discussion with like cousins and other people in my family. And I used to think it was, what do people call it? Poppycock. Is that what most people want to say? Like poppycock. I thought it was malarkey. I thought it was BS, right? How are you going to meet someone and after 24 hours, they're the one? And I see TikToks of people and they're like, how did you know she's the one? How many dates to know she's the one? And the guy's like, I knew after day 1, day 2, day 3. And I'm like, these people are so full of crap. Like, how do you know so early? But in all honesty, the first time I spoke to Taiwo on the phone, I felt like this gut feeling. It was super strange. I can't describe it. And I've tried to vocalize this so many times and touch on this feeling so many times, but it's hard to articulate. But it was almost like someone like tapping me on my shoulder to be like, this is the person you've been waiting for. Like, this is the person. I just like spoke to him and I just felt like, where have you been all my life kind of thing. And also at the same time, I feel like I've known you before. It's so weird. It's so weird. And maybe other people listening who are in long-term relationships or who are married can corroborate this. But there was an element of something in my body and my spirit is just telling me this is the person. And I'd never had that at first interaction with anybody. So that was weird for me. It wasn't like, I have some friends, like I've said this before as well, every guy they meet he's the one, right? But for me, that doesn't happen. So when it happened, I was like, this is strange. But then there was also the logical element of it. And it was tied to me having a strong idea of the kind of man I wanted to marry. And I think that was tied to me writing lists about that person and thinking about that person. And in my book coming out in September, No Fucks Given, I mentioned the importance of writing lists. And I think writing lists about the kind of partner you want is actually quite important because it allows you to focus and it reminds you not to settle as well. And on my list, I had key things I wanted in a man. I wanted a man who was family orientated. I wanted a man who had a good sense of humor, who didn't take himself too seriously. I wanted a man who was ambitious, who was financially stable. I wanted a man who was God-fearing. I wanted a man who had a lot of things that a lot of women like, right? And I had it on my list and I said, you know what, these are key things for me. And there were some things I'm willing to compromise on. Like I didn't have things like material stuff on my list linked to aesthetics, for example. Like I didn't have over 6 feet because that's something I'm always willing to compromise on. I'm not a stickler of like super tall, that you have to be tall. As long as we're the same height or more, that's my main thing. I just want a guy that when I'm wearing heels, I don't feel like I'm overshadowing him, right, with my height. That was it. But I wasn't a stickler for like, oh, he needs to be super tall, he needs to be this, he needs to have these eyes, he needs to have this body. I didn't really have anything physical on my list. For real, as long as he was just like taller than me. I didn't care if he was 5'8". So I had non-negotiables and I had compromise stuff. And the compromise stuff, I think majority of it I didn't even put on the list. So when I met him, I was checking off things in my mind. Essentially, I was vetting him. And I think that's a normal thing to do when you're dating someone, and people should do that. Not enough people do that. You should vet the people that you're talking to. What is their mindset like? What are their beliefs like? When it comes to things that you're passionate about, do you align? Do your values align? When it comes to their plans for the future, the kind of relationships they want, the kind of marriage they want, the kind of family they want, Does it align? Does it sit well with you? Do they talk to you kindly? Do they talk to others kindly? That kind of stuff. So as I'm getting to know him, I was just like, check, tick, check, 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 check. And I said, okay, this is great. You have the foundational things. Now I need to know if like there's a physical chemistry in person, because obviously we had a long distance relationship. And it's one thing talking to someone on the phone, but do you vibe in person? Sometimes you can talk to someone on the phone. It could be great. You're kikiing every second. It's like fantastic. You meet in person, you're like, something is off. And I've spoken to people who have had that same experience where they've chit-chatted on the phone and then they've met in person and been like, yeah, I can't put my finger on it, but it's not landing. So when I met him in person, it was even better. And I said, yep, I felt this feeling that you were my person in the beginning. Your values, your character, your beliefs, your goals aligned with that. But now I've met you, there's something there. There's a physical attraction there. There is I don't like to use the word chemistry because I think sometimes people can like misuse it and misinterpret it. And sometimes what we think is chemistry can be fueled by like projections or even trauma bonding and things like that. So I don't like saying chemistry, but there was a physical attraction. And I'm going to use that word because I do think physical attraction is important in a relationship. I've said in the past, your partner does not have to look like a model. They don't have to look picture perfect in every single way, but they need to be attractive to you. If a million people are like, they're not fine, that doesn't matter. If you think they're fine, if you're attracted to them or something about them, that is what matters. And I was attracted to him. So that was great, right? But in being with him, it helped me break down how I knew he was the one in like a practical way, right? Because I dated other guys in the past. And bar one of my exes that I thought was the one because my list and my tick boxes were very, very just blasé back then. I was like, Nigerian.
They were scribbles.
Good job. Yeah.
They were scribbles.
Like, that's enough. Yeah. It was a stick man. Like, if you had to draw a person, I drew a stick man. I was like, this will do, right? And so it was all very blasé. But by the time I was in my 30s and I had met Taiwo, it was way more in depth. Yeah. It wasn't scribbles anymore. It was way more elaborate, right? And it focused a lot on character, whereas in my 20s, it was very superficial. So I had delusions about the one at one point in my 20s, but for the most part, people I dated, I never thought that I was gonna marry them. I didn't, right? And then I started thinking about Taiwo and like, okay, what about Taiwo makes him stand out? And that led me to create a list. I made a TikTok video that went viral, and I've included this list in my new book, but I'm going to share it here for my listeners, right? In case you've not seen the video. And it was a list on things you should ask yourself before you marry that man. Because as much as I felt it in my gut and I loved his character and I was attracted to Taiwo, I still wanted to have that conversation with myself because marriage is a big thing. There are a lot of people who rush into it because of societal pressure. And I've almost fell victim to that in my past. There are people who rush into it because of lust. There are people who rush into it because they're trying to prove a point to people around them. For ego, some people rush into it for the wedding day. And I wanted to be like, okay, I need to be sure that this is it for me because I like most people, you want to get married once and just do it once, right? It's expensive too. I'm talking from experience. And I just wanted to be as sure as I could be. And I say as sure as I could be because you can never be 110% sure. There are some people who are great at putting on masks and pretending to be people they're not. Some narcissists, oh my God, like it will take you years before their true colors come out. So to be entirely sure, I'm not going to pretend like you can be. There's always risk in any type of relationship that involves another person, right? You can only control yourself. You can't control the other person. You can never be entirely sure, but there are things you can do and questions you can ask yourself to minimize risk. So let me go through some of the questions I asked myself that triggered this video. Question number 1. We touched on this in a previous episode about potential. And I think this is a key thing to ask yourself when determining whether the person is the one for you. Because as much as I've said that I had this like spiritual feeling, I do want to caveat this podcast episode by saying not everyone feels that. And it's not necessarily indicative of an issue. There are some people who've been married for decades and they never had that spiritual feeling, that intense spiritual feeling at the beginning when they met their partner. They don't have that. Maybe even they started off as friends and it grew into an intense, passionate love. So don't feel like, oh, if Toni had that feeling, I need to have that feeling. Not everyone has that feeling, right? For some people, it is largely practical, and that is okay. So one of the questions you need to ask yourself when it comes to like whether this person is the one, and by the one, someone you should invest your life in and your time in and your energy in. If that person did not change at all, would you still want to marry them? This is an important question to ask yourself, because I do think, just like with dating, sometimes people marry for potential. And as I've said in the previous episode, potential in and of itself is not the issue. The issue is if your relationship is heavily and primarily built around potential. Some people will never change. Their potential won't manifest. So you need to ask yourself, as this person is right now, is their character, their behavior, their mindset, is everything good enough for you that you feel like you would still want to be with them should they never improve? Is their current state good enough? Another question to ask yourself. If you had a son just like him, ladies, and I'm talking to the ladies right now, would you be proud? Would you be proud? And there's another level to this. There's another layer to this. If your daughter said she wanted to marry a man who was just like him, would you be happy? I'm not going to lie. There's been times I've been in relationships with people and I never asked myself that question because at that age, I never considered that question. But if the younger me had asked myself that question, oh my God, there were some guys that I would have been like, oh my God, no. Like if my son was like them, I would think, wow, like I probably wouldn't even get to talk to you much or see you much. You're not that like family focused and you're a bit selfish and I wouldn't want a son like that. And then I'd think if my daughter was to marry them, I'd be like, oh no, like, why would you don't you want an easy life? It's just stress. And this person doesn't know whether they're coming or going or they're too toxic for you. And then I stopped to think like, it's crazy. When I wasn't asking myself that question, I entertained certain relationships. But the reality is when you ask yourself that question, sometimes some women or men will be like, shit. Even Taiwo, my partner, has even asked himself that question about women. I mean, not to spill his business, but, you know, we're on a podcast. There was this one lady that he was talking to prior to me, right? And I say talking because they weren't in a relationship. And were they even formally dating? Not really. But they were talking. And he was dating her, I think, for potential. I mean, he said he was dating her for potential because some men do that, right? And he felt like, oh, I do see some good in her. Like, beyond the surface, I see some good in her, right? And then I said to him, like, why didn't you pursue it? Like, when did it end? And he said that situation ended because one day he was like, do I trust this woman to, like, pass on her values to my children? Like, if my children were just like her, or if my daughters were just like her, would I be happy? Like, do I feel like I want my kids to have her values? And he said when he asked himself that question, he was like, nope. He realized,
nope.
He said he realized he couldn't be with her because he was like, nah, she's a little too much for me, right? And even men, it's the same for them. Sometimes they do it. They're like, okay, this girl is amazing, but maybe she's too liberal, too much of a party animal for them, or she has certain opinions about life that they don't agree on. And I think it's the same for women. Sometimes we could be dating a guy, we think it's all good, like he's fun, he's vibey, his vibes, we're having a great time. Then we think, damn, like, if my kid was just like you, would I be happy? No. Those are the men that you're with for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
Like, short-term fun, but not long-term commitment. And it sounds harsh to say, but sometimes you date people because, yeah, you're in your 20s, you're 21, 22. It's lit. It's fun out here, right? You're having a good time. But it doesn't necessarily translate to marriage, does it? Another question to ask yourself. If you had a family with this person, assuming you want children, because not everyone wants children, but if you do want children, if you had a family with this person and God forbid something happened to you, do you trust that this individual will take care of your children and prioritize your children adequately? That's such an important question. That is such an important question. Because if you want a family out of someone and you want children, it's not as simple as them being a fun partner, being a passionate partner. Will they make a good parent? there's multiple dimensions you have to consider of that person's character, because some people are good boyfriends, decent husbands, terrible fathers. Some people are even like, do I think you can be a bad father and a good partner? I think in being a good father, you will respect your romantic partner. So I think that one's a bit different. But for the most part, some people are like good people when kids aren't in the equation. The minute kids enter the equation, they change. And we've heard this story so many times about like guys who are like great partners, then they have a kid and the woman's like, I don't know what happened. And then he's just like not part of his kid's life, or he's not very invested. And the woman is doing like all of the work when it comes to raising those children. So that's an important question I think people need to ask themselves, particularly women. Like, God forbid something happened to you. Would this man take care of your children? Again, when I thought about Taiwo, and I was like, yeah, he's going to be an amazing father. I feel like, God forbid something happened to me, he would instill great values in my children, our children. He would support them, he'd care for them, he'd love them, he'd prioritize them. Then I thought about people I've dated in the past, and I thought, damn, like, what was I doing there? Like, I feel like if I had kids with them and God forbid something happened to me, would they even see their dad? They'd probably be with their grandma all the time. That's an important question you need to ask yourself if you want kids. The next question I had was, when this one a little bit controversial, I'm not gonna lie.
I'm reading this and I'm like, ooh.
This one is a little bit controversial. And a lot of people came at me on TikTok when I included this in the video. They were very, very angry, but there's a reason why I included it. If you married this man, do you trust that he will put your feelings above his mother's? And I know some people are not going to like that. A lot of people didn't like that. But there was a reason I said that. The reason I said that is because I think in a marriage, the goal is for both parties to create their own family. And a family can exist without children. It doesn't mean you have to have children, but it's to create their own family. Their old family still exists, but they have formed a new family, and that new family should take precedent. It should take priority. When it comes to marrying, assuming you date men, some of you listening date women, but I think the question still rings true. I think all these questions kind of ring true for both genders, but you don't want to be with a mummy's boy in the literal sense of the word. Someone who, I'm gonna say it frankly, you don't want to be with a man who commits emotional incest with his mother. And you're laughing. Producer Anisha's laughing in the background. I know it sounds harsh, but
the way you said emotional incest and then you just stared at the camera. Sorry, that just got
emotional
me.
incest is a thing, though. Like, emotional incest is a thing. Like, there are some mothers who have a relationship with their sons that is almost like disturbing, like bordering on almost romantic. Like an obsession with their son, as if their son is their boyfriend or their husband.
Yeah.
And I think that relationship dynamic is very unhealthy. And when men like that enter romantic relationships with women, those women suffer because the real girlfriend and the real wife in that equation is his mother. And you come secondary, right? And I think when it comes to marriage, you do not want to be with a man who dismisses that covenant and cares more about his mother's opinions and feelings over your opinion and feelings. Like, once you've created your new family, your family together, that's secondary. And similarly, like, I have a father, I love my dad, but I'm not going to listen to my dad's opinion and put my dad's feelings above my husband's feelings if I'm with my husband. Like, if my husband says, oh, let's go on this holiday to whatever, my dad's like, oh, I don't want you to go on this holiday. I want you to come here to visit me. And there's no real issue. He just is being possessive in a weird way. I mean, my dad would never do that, thank God. If anything, it's the opposite. I'm like, do you even care? I wouldn't be like, oh, no, we can't go on this holiday. I need to be with my dad. But there are some men who'll be like, oh, sorry, my mum needs me. My mum wants me. My mummy. And it's too much. So you need to ask yourself that, like, do you trust this man to prioritize your feelings? You know what? Let me not even say above his mother, above anybody else. Sorry, that's my opinion. When a man and a woman are married, right? And they're in a loving relationship. I need to stress that, because if you're in a toxic relationship, hell no, you shouldn't be prioritizing your man's feelings, your woman's feelings. You should be getting the hell up out of there or trying to fix the situation, right? But if you're in a loving relationship, that man should not be putting his homeboy's feelings above your feelings, his mother's feelings above your feelings, his brother's feelings, his father's feelings. You're his number one priority, right? And likewise, vice versa. You should be each other's number one priority. So I think that's an important question you need to ask yourself. Hypothetically, let's pretend you couldn't work anymore, right? And you had to rely on him as the sole breadwinner. Does the thought of that fill you with dread? Or are you at peace with that possibility? I think that's an important factor to consider when you're thinking about whether the person is the one that you should marry, whether you should marry them. Because in life, shit happens. Things that are out of our control, whether it's accidents, whether it's chronic illness. Sometimes people cannot work, right? And it works both ways. Sometimes men cannot bring home the bacon, as people would stereotypically, traditionally say. And sometimes women can't bring home the bacon either. Sometimes people lose their jobs. They get made redundant. They're laid off. Do you trust that this person has the drive needed to be a provider and to step up when they need to step up? And this isn't a gender specific thing. I think it's important, even as a man, like to be with a woman who isn't so much of a princess that she believes that she never has to work for anything. Because like I said, shit happens in life. God forbid something happens to your husband and he can no longer do the job that he was previously doing or can't work, period. Then you guys are screwed. Like, you need to trust that your partner in times of crisis, not just financial, even emotional, physical, whatever, that they can step up. That leads me to another question. I mentioned physical crisis and taking care of children, but God forbid something happened to you where you were sick to a degree that you needed care. Do you trust that that person loves you enough to care for you and to stick around? There was a really sad statistic that I read. I can't remember the research paper. I wish I wrote it down for this episode. Sorry, it just came to mind now. But it was basically about how when men are diagnosed with cancer, terminal cancer, the rate of a woman divorces him, his wife divorcing him, reduces. Which kind of makes sense to me, because it's like, let's say I was thinking about divorcing you before. Now I find out you're sick. Why would I want to add even more pain to your life? If anything, maybe it even encourages me to feel sorry for you and to pity you and want to be there for you in your final moments and support you through this horrible, horrible thing that no one should ever have to experience. So a woman is less likely to divorce a man when he is terminally ill. However, a man on average is more likely to divorce a woman when she is terminally ill, which is a really, really sad statistic, right? You would think that in a time of sickness, the person who allegedly loves you would be there to care for you. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. And I think that's also an important question to ask yourself. Again, none of these questions are foolproof in the sense that you know 100% guaranteed, because people can switch up on you anytime, any day, unfortunately. I'm just going to be blunt. I'm going to say how it is. That's life. But you at least want to feel in that moment where you agree to marry someone or you marry someone, that you feel in your heart in that present moment that they will be there for you through thick and thin. Because that's what the vows are all about, in sickness and in health, right? So that's another question you need to ask yourself. God forbid you were terminally sick or you had a chronic illness or you became very ill. Could they and would they stick around to care for you? Do you feel like that person loves you to that capacity? That they're with you, not just because of convenience or because of enjoyment, but because of a deep desire to pour into you, to be there for you, to protect you, to take care of you, to love you through everything. And by everything, I'm not talking about the strife that they put you through, but the strife that the world may bring to your doorstep that you can fight together. Like, do they love you to that degree? And if the answer in your heart of hearts in that moment that you're thinking about marrying this person is yes, go for it. And to wrap this segment up, the last question I want to throw in here is, if his worst traits doubled or tripled in intensity, would you still want that man? Would you still want him if his worst traits doubled or tripled? I think this is an important question to ask yourself, because someone's worst traits should not be so bad that if they got worse, that would be it, right? Like, if his worst traits was that, like, he emotionally cheats, if that doubled or tripled, that'd be terrible. He'll be doing God knows what with who knows what, when and where, right? But if his worst trait is something that is actually not that big of a deal and it doubled or tripled or even quadrupled, if you still want to be there, that's a testament to his worst trait not being so bad. When I think about what's Taiwo's worst trait? Taiwo's worst trait. It's just silly stuff. This even sounds bad, me saying it, but like Taiwo, that's not his worst trait. I don't want to say it's his worst trait because we just have different communication styles. I was going to say the fact that like he always wants to talk to me 24/7, even when I'm like, oh, I need to do this thing, I'll call you back. Then I get a call 30 minutes later, like, oh, hi, what you doing? I'm like, but bruh, I done told you I was busy, like, relax, right? So that's not even the worst trait. That's actually very cute, very sweet, very endearing. And he's gotten much better because now I'm like, look, I'm busy. His worst trait, he has again, that's what I mean. Like, I'm struggling.
The fact that you're struggling is such a good thing, though.
That's the sign. Yeah. He has like, I don't know, too much energy. Like, he just has a lot of energy sometimes. He's weird because it's like typical Gemini, two sides of him. He's either very laid back or he has so much energy. And when he's around me, he's excited. Yeah, he's excitable. He has a lot of energy. And sometimes he'll just be like, have this burst of energy out of nowhere when I'm trying to chill. And I'm like, yeah, what's going on? Or he'll like jump up and just like be doing handstands. And I'm like, what? And if that doubled or tripled or quadrupled, it wouldn't bother me. Does that make sense? Like, his worst trait isn't so bad that if it was maximized, I wouldn't want to be with him anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a very telling, right? If their worst trait was doubled or tripled in intensity, would you freak out? Or would you just be like, oh, it's annoying, but I still want to be here? Now, I'm not really going to go into signs that he's not the one, because for the most part, it's just the opposite of everything I've said, right? If you're worried about having a child like him, if you feel like he won't be there to support you if you were sick, if you feel like he wouldn't make a good parent, all those things are indicative of someone not being the one. But also ask yourself like how you truly feel. I don't think we ask ourselves this question enough. And I say that as someone who didn't in my 20s, like being in relationships and entertaining things I should never have entertained because I never asked myself, like, how do you really feel? Forget how you feel for the person. You can love someone and care for someone, but day to day, you feel like shit. Day to day, you don't feel fulfilled. So forget how you feel about them, but how do you feel in yourself, in your spirit? How is your vibe when you're thinking about your relationship with them and you're around them? Do they add to your peace? I think that's such an important question to ask yourself. Like, are you happier and more at peace with them? If the answer is no, then you may as well be single. It is much better to be single and to be happy and to be at peace in your singleness than to be in a relationship and feel uneasy and feel anxious and feel less happy. What's the point of being in that relationship? You may as well just be single. Like, a partner should contribute to your happiness. And that's not to say every day will be super easy. There'll be some days you may struggle in your relationship. But when I say struggle, for the most part, you're struggling because you too are trying to navigate a situation together that is hard, right? Or you're trying to work through a situation that has nothing to do with the person disrespecting you or ill-treating you or anything like that. Your relationship to them shouldn't be tested on the regular based on them mistreating you. If there are any tests you're facing them because of things out of your control or outside of the relationship, or even if it's things within the relationship. It's like differences in communication or little habits that are annoying, but not because the person doesn't value you, doesn't respect you, doesn't see you, doesn't love you, right? So I say this to say that your partner should contribute. They should be your peace. They should bring peace. They should contribute to your happiness. And you should feel better in that relationship than outside of it. If you feel worse, may as well be single. So as always, I have to end it with some positive words or motivational words, however you want to perceive it. When it came to my relationship with Taiwo and how I felt after our first phone call, even our second phone call, that infamous 7-hour phone call, I felt very at peace. And I think that was such an important factor of knowing that he was the one. As someone who had been in previous relationships and felt a little anxious, With him, I didn't feel that. And there was something that my brother had said about my sister-in-law, and he knew she was the one because of absence of doubt. And that's how I knew Taiwo was the one. Absence of doubt. Every fiber of my being just felt comfortable around him, comfortable enough to be myself, to show up as the most authentic and true version of me, comfortable enough for him to see my flaws, comfortable enough for him to see me in every single state, comfortable enough to be vulnerable with him. I just felt completely at peace, and things were easy. Things were easy. Without sounding cliche, I think when you've met the one, it's easy. To be honest, it's easy. You're not in a constant battle. You're not constantly filled with anxiety or dread. Everything just feels like home, you know? So I think that's how you know someone is the one. That is all from me today. If you enjoyed this episode and you're watching it on YouTube, please like and subscribe and share this video with your friends. If you're listening from your favorite audio platforms, please drop a comment and make sure you share this podcast with people you know, and do follow us on socials as well. We will be back again, and by we, myself and producer Annisha, as always, we'll be back again next week on Tuesday with more real talk and real tea from me.